Good morning. My name is Carolyn Carter. I'm a little short for this pulpit.
Stool.
Oh, there's a stool. Oh, much better. You catch me if I fall, okay? I'm coming to you from Niantic Community Church. I'm fairly new to them. I've only been with them for a year. And before that, I was with an evangelical church not far from here. I didn't really know what that entailed until I was in the thick of it. And I really had to make a decision based on my personal ethics. So to be clear, I was never a person who shied away from my connection to the gay community while I was in my evangelical church. In fact, I was quite forward with my orientation because I wanted to be transparent. There's some foreshadowing there. But regardless if I was out and proud or quietly suffered, none of it was okay how it was handled. So I'll take you first back to when I was younger. It was the first time I left church was at 17. I grew up fairly familiar, not a regular attender, but I was with my aunt, and whenever I visited her through the years, we would go. Into my college years, I still went, but on this particular day, the sermon was about how you should homeschool your children because schools teach tolerance. Tolerance to things like homosexuality, among other things. But that was being the catalyst, of course. I sat alone in the pew because my little cousins had scurried off to Sunday school, and my mouth dropped open when I realized the look on my face. I looked around to see if anyone was looking at me, but they weren't. They were nodding and giving amens. I never set foot in that church again after that day. It was a small Baptist church in Columbia in 2002. I didn't go back to church until I was 34. I was at the end of my rope and almost out of options to make my life better. I felt God calling me, and almost like autopilot, I would find myself showing up each week at this new church. I attended there for 4 years, fully immersed. I hoped this time would be different. It seemed different. I loved it there. It was modern and flashy and fun and moving, and there were always things to do, and I could always be part of it. They knew that I was a bisexual female from day one. They told me that was okay, and they loved me and welcomed me anyway. That was enough for me. I didn't know that they were waiting for me to change. My friend Rosie wanted to come to church with me one day. She had seen my posts and praise for the transformation I was going through. She wanted to be part of it. I couldn't wait for her to join me on the following Sunday. Her wife, however, did her homework much better than me and dug right into the doctrine of the church and didn't support Rosie going with me. The evangelical in me did not want my friend to miss out on Jesus. So I took her to a different church, closer to home, and it had a rainbow flag outside, so I didn't have to do any homework this time. This was a UCC church in Niantic in 2019. There was a woman pastor who preached in a way that felt too old-fashioned for us at the time, but I needed to know some things. After service, I approached her, asking for resources and advice on how I could make my fun church open and affirming too. I was very naive at the time and really thought I could be that bridge. The pastor probably realized in that moment how blind the ask was of me, but instead of breaking it to me gently, she gave me a book about the 7 or 8 clobber passages. This book would remain with me for the years to follow. I shared it with many people, none of which were attending the church I went to. I figured out soon after that it was likened to contraband. When I did give it to the one friend I'd had left in the end, a deacon, I folded newspaper to make a book cover, hiding the title. I've never been so scared to give someone a book. I asked her to read it and try to see where I was coming from, but before she opened it, she already knew what it was going to say. On a Sunday where I had brought friends, one of the young men who was being groomed to be the next pastor, minus schooling, was allowed to preach that homosexuals and those who support them would turn to dust and not inherit the kingdom of God. Here we go again. This was a Small Assemblies of God church in Groton in 2021. I didn't walk away this time, not right away. I had finally connected to God, and I refused to let someone else take that from me. But the pandemic and the election had swooped in and hurt the relationships I had with the people of this church. This sermon was the nail in the coffin of a dying theology. I knew there had to be something better. I began looking for a new church that day and an exit strategy. 2 months ago, not only did I become an official member of that old-fashioned UCC church, on the very same day I was sworn in, I gave a speech for Pride Month, which is how Kyle found me. It was about why I had to leave the last place. That story didn't even include the sermon about me turning to dust, because it's never just one thing. It's all the little things that start to add up. Conservative Christians in America claim that they're being persecuted, but being called a Karen and telling you can't pray in school or take people's rights away is not really persecution. Being told I can't stay in a church, that feels a little bit more like persecution, just because of who I love. But being gay, trans, queer, in a holy space, that's important. And it's important for churches like this to exist in all communities. Even here in Niantic, where I'm from, some of our people are still a little nervous. They're afraid of being a target. And that's why whenever we pass a place that has a rainbow, especially for those people that are allies and straight, to show that support means a lot to us. And I know that some people don't understand that, but when you are limited to where you can go, where you can worship, where you can be safe, those little stripes, those little stickers, they matter, man. So speaking about queer lives very much matters. Last month, I was told by someone who knew me for 15 years that I was the D word, and that God doesn't love me. But I'm solid in my foundation with God, and I know that I am loved because my God has taken care of me. My God has pulled me out of the storm and blessed me continually. Like in the reading we heard, "O Lord, you have searched me and known me. You know when I sit down and when I rise up. You discern my thoughts from afar. You search out my path and my lying down and are acquainted with all my ways." Further down in the psalm, "For you formed my inward parts. You knitted me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works. My soul knows it very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depths of the earth." Does that sound like a God who doesn't know what they're doing? Does that sound like a God that makes mistakes? That would intricately weave my existence, bring me into the world, and then tell me to fix it, and I'm not allowed in God's house? I don't think so. I've been taught that God is the mother of us all. Every person in this room and every person on this planet is fearfully and wonderfully made in the image of love. I feel her in my DNA, swirling around in my heart, telling me, don't listen. Don't listen to man who is only on the outside. Listen to me, who resides on the inside. It looks like things stopped adding up for the evangelical arguments, and I'm so glad I took the chance on myself, because I was promised that he leaves the 99 for the one. No one can tell me I'm not the one, because I am, and so are you. And whether someone else thinks it or even tells you that you're not part of the one or even the part of the 99, well, it's just not true. We know that our connection to God feels like, we know what that feels like, and it's deeply personal, and no human can tear that faith from you, so please don't let them. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the greatest commandment, of course. But the second is that you love your neighbor as yourself. And everything after these two commandments comes from a book that we can study and argue and debate about. There's a lot of room for interpretation, but not God's love. God loving you for how you were made is not up for interpretation. We all belong in holy spaces, and don't let anyone ever tell you otherwise, because you are fearfully and wonderfully made.